board members for SAD 52. Tonight is the result of their hard work in building a budget. We have a couple people not here tonight. Briallard is ill, but in alphabetical order. We have Crystal Barris, Alex Cutter, Jenny Mayhew, Joe McLean is our vice chair. Peter Ricker is at his son's graduation, the chair. Ashley Mishu, Kyle Purington, and Anthony Shostak. So I'd like to start by opening nominations for a moderator. Each nomination will require a second, and a motion to cease nominations will be entertained and in order as soon as nominations are made. Following the acceptance and vote and the motion to cease nominations, the election will be by ballot. Are there any nominations for moderator? I hear a motion to nominate Clint Boothby. Is there a second? Second. Is there a motion to cease nominations? You get that? Do we have to vote to cease nominations?
It has to be a second too.
And was there a second?
Okay, that's what I was going to give.
So, all those in favor of ceasing nominations? Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. So, we do need to elect the moderator by a minimum of 2 written ballots. Those wishing to cast their ballot may do so now. Oh, yeah. On the edge of our seats.
Oh my goodness.
Clint, you got elected. I state your name.
I, Clint Boothby,
Do swear that I will faithfully discharge,
do swear that I will faithfully discharge,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
the duties incumbent on me
the duties incumbent on me
as moderator of this annual district meeting,
of moderator and moderator of this annual meeting,
according to the Constitution and laws of the state,
according to the Constitution and laws of the state,
and I will support the Constitution of the United States
and I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that of this state,
and that of this state,
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. All right, so we need to have you. And that would be this, yeah, so you're on now.
First order of business is I need to swear in the ballot clerk, so be right with you.
Swearing in the back. Swearing in the back. Where's Stevie? He's not coming? Oh. Yeah. And I always sit down front. I'm by myself, but I usually always sit down front.
Oh, yes, sorry.
It seems like I'm water.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. In case it seems like I'm a little disorganized tonight, I'm a little disorganized tonight, but I think we're back on track now. So, we've got the ballot clerks all sworn in. We have some business to take care of, and I'm going to turn the meeting over to the superintendent to make a short presentation about the budget you're about to vote on, and then we'll go article by article. The way we'll do that is I'll ask for a motion in a second. Once I have a motion in a second, the floor will be open for debate, questions, anything you want to raise in connection with that particular article, and we'll vote on that one and move on to the next one. There is one piece of business we have to do. Many of you who have attended this in the past are aware that only citizens of the three communities who have signed in can address this meeting unless they have your permission. And there are some folks here who we may need to hear from tonight because they are a part of the district and need to provide information to us. And those persons are, and forgive me if I get these names, if I mispronounce any of these names, but Brian Brito, Rebecca Drysdale, Elaine Dean, Shannon Barkash, Kristen Conway, Carrie Mann, Doug Parker, and Dave Roberts. Is there any objection to any of those people providing us information if we need that information tonight? Seeing no objection, I will consider that unanimous consent. And now at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Carrie Med to present to us a little presentation about the budget we're about to vote on.
Okay, so I'll try to be brief, but also provide you with helpful information, and certainly there'll be an opportunity for anyone who asks questions. I know Clint will recognize people and do that. So just a brief budget overview. The budget is up. The total budget you see presented to you tonight by the board is up 4.86% over last year. The total budget is $39,181,450. We did increase our subsidy from the state by just over $1 million. But for the second year in a row, we saw significant increases in health insurance. This year it was 11.43%. Last year was 12.9%. So there's definitely a pressure point on the district in terms of health insurance. The other unexpected thing that we saw was a funding law change for adult ed. We had anticipated about $590,000 in subsidy, and that money was removed from the ED 279, which is the form by which we get our subsidy. The adult ed funding is now coming through a different route, but it was funding that we anticipated and did not get. So there were a number of things right off the bat that sort of caused us some concern. So those have been some of the challenges. So almost everything that you're going to hear tonight is things that we're doing responding to enrollment and student needs. So at Green Central School, we're reallocating some positions. We have a 6th grade teacher position that's being shifted to special ed due to class sizes in 6th grade are going down, special ed needs are going up. We have a contracted special education position right now. We're moving that onto our budget, so that both of those positions are cost neutral, but they are a shift in services. There's one new position at Green, and that is an Ed Tech 2 position in special education. At Turner Primary School, again, due to class size, we're eliminating a 2nd grade teacher for next year. We're also eliminating an intervention Ed Tech 3, that's a regular ed position, and we are shifting both of those positions into a single intervention teacher. It ends up being a savings of $20,000. The goal at Turner Primary School is to develop a consistent intervention system for students who are struggling in reading and math, and our struggle to hire and keep ed techs continues. And so our hope is that by having this shift into a teacher position, we'll be able to be more consistent. Turner Elementary School are all new positions and all in special ed and all directly related to student needs. So students who've either moved into the district, returned from out-of-district placements, or are newly qualified. So we're adding a teacher and 3 ed techs to Turner Elementary. At Leeds Central School, the board added this year a special education nurse to meet student needs. So that position is now reflected in the budget. That was something that we added mid-year and need to continue to meet student needs. And in general, special education, the one thing that we continue to struggle to hire is speech language pathologists. If you know one, we'd love to hire them. But our contractual services continue to go up because when we can't have an employee on staff, we have to contract. Contracting is always more expensive than hiring an employee. If we found somebody who wanted to be a speech pathologist, we would not contract and we would hire them. So that's the goal, but we have to reflect the reality of the situation we're in. For the high school, their enrollment is going up, but there's a couple things. So there are changes that we have a technology education teacher, which is sort of like a traditional shop teacher is how you might have referred to it when you were younger, if you were in my age group here. That you can't really get certified in that anymore. So we are going to be contracting with LRTC to continue to offer that programming here at Levitt. So even though it will be a teacher, an LRTC teacher, they will live here and serve our kiddos. It allows for more flexible entry point for employees who want to get certification. A CTE certification is very different from a general education certification, and there's a much simpler pathway for those people who have experience in contracting and other areas like that. So that's a cost-neutral position, cost-neutral change. The high school is going to be over 600 students next year, so we need 2 additional teachers, 1 in science and 1 in social studies. In transportation, you probably have seen, if you looked at the detail, contracted transportation costs are up. That is a reflection of our continued struggle to fully employ all the bus drivers that we need. We did reduce 2 bus driver positions so that we weren't double budgeting, very similar to the speech pathology. We're trying not to leave open positions and add contracting. But again, like a speech pathologist, if we found a bus driver, we would stop contracting and we would hire that driver so that it's not as expensive. This also is the first year we will be paying on our wastewater treatment plant that is operating and doing great. Other instruction, that warrant article, you see a 13.67% increase. That is a reflection of a couple of items. So we have so many students, high school athletes participating in track and football that we need more adults there to properly supervise. So we are adding an assistant coach in both of those programs. This coming year is the year we are fully funding lacrosse. That is a program that 3 years ago the board agreed to take on in a 3-year process for bringing that into the district. So that this year represents the end of that 3-year process. So next year that program is fully funded by the district. We have an athletic trainer who drives around a cart to make sure that they can get to all the games and also bring injured players off of fields. That cart is dead, so it's probably 25 years old, so it needs to be replaced. The middle school has a unified program for associated with Special Olympics. We do not have a coordinator for that program, so a small stipend for that. And then the biggest increase in that budget is around transportation costs. Taking kids to their games, we have had to contract more and more for those. The last couple years we've been over on this budget, so this year we are finally admitting that those costs are real and we are contracting. Again, if we can hire those bus drivers, we will stop contracting and those costs will go down. And then finally, we are adding a stipend for robotics. We have had a team for a couple of years. There's been no stipend for that, but basically it's cost neutral because we have another stipend that we don't need. There are a couple other additional costs. We are implementing new math materials, K-8. This year we implemented grades 3 through 8. This coming year, K-2 is joining. We pay a share of the costs of LRTC. That cost sharing agreement started in last year's budget, so that is up $5,000 for FY27. And then the main paid family leave law takes full effect for all of our employees, so there's an additional $48,000, almost $49,000 in the budget to reflect the taxes the district has to pay on that. So the board did make some shifts in response to budget concerns and trying to keep the budget as low as possible. So the instructional coach at Leeds has moved fully into title grant funding. A portion of the green instructional coach has moved into title grant funding. To make room for that, we did eliminate 2 intervention ed techs, 1 at each of those schools. We did also eliminate a district-wide custodian position and an intervention ed tech 2 at Turner Elementary. So that was a reduction. All of those positions together was $235,000. One thing you'll see tonight is reserve accounts. We have made strategic use of fund balance to make sure that we can meet the needs of a range of issues we have. So Article 17 is for technology. We use this account for unexpected costs as well as paying a district license that comes due every 3 years. So rather than have one big bill every 3 years, we're sort of putting away money in the reserve account so we can pay for it and not really alter the budget significantly on that 3rd year. Regular instruction, for last year's budget, the board put in an additional $200,000. So this reserve account was $300,000 last year, and that was in the response to all of the uncertainty we had about whether or not we would be getting federal grant money. I don't know if you remember, but last year, March, April, there was lots of questions about whether or not that money was going to come our way. The money did come through. We have gotten preliminary numbers for this year that that funding is pretty stable, so the board does not feel the need anymore to have that large amount in regular instruction. So it's going to go back to the $100,000 that has been there. That is for in case we have an unusually large number of kindergartners, for example, or we need an additional teacher that we hadn't counted on. That $100,000 allows us to respond to that. The capital reserve account will absorb the $200,000. We're going to move it from regular instruction into capital reserve. We're going to add another $252,000. That fund will be up to 1.5. There's a bunch of things that we've been able to do in making strategic use of this fund. The Leeds roof was repaired last summer. We are in the process of completing the complete repair of the Turner Primary Water. For those of you who've been around, Turner Primary Water has been the talk of the town for a very long time. It is going to get fixed and be fixed forever after this spring when we finish part 2 of the project. And the wastewater treatment plant. We started that project in 2018. Since then, costs went up. We needed to account for an additional approximately $400,000. So we could avoid putting that into the budget, and we're able to use reserve accounts. Projects we're looking to complete using reserve funds. These lights are broken. They're flashing. They flash all the time. We need to fix these lights here in the auditorium. The sprinkler system in the high school has some very needed repairs to it, as well as Turner Primary has the whole front of the building. There's several repairs to the facade, rotten windows, and then water damage in the gym floor that needs to be repaired. Special education has $200,000. 2 years ago, we actually needed all of that money for unexpected costs. Could be individual students who move in, or other things that could happen in special ed. And then system administration, that $100,000 was there last year. It is helping us to transition our financial software to a new system. Once we complete that, this reserve account will not be needed anymore. So it's for this one project, and then it will move on. The one reserve account that is new this year is the reserve account, Article 18, for land acquisition. There's $500,000 in that for the purchase of 18 acres in Turner. This is the location for the purpose of athletic fields and transportation facility. The board has been working on land needs and transportation needs. We have diesel tanks that need to be replaced and relocated. So the board's really been working on this for 2 or 3 years, and searching various options for land, and came to this as sort of the best option. And so this is the reserve account here. A separate vote at the referendum will be needed on that land purchase. It's not just part of the budget. So when you go to the referendum, there'll be 2 ballots there. So overall budget, you have this in your book, 4.86%. We did receive some unexpected revenue about 2 or 3 weeks ago, about an additional almost $20,000, so we were able to reduce some of it. You should have some updated documents that were shoved into your books, or if you brought your books, they were available on the tables. If you didn't get that, I think there probably are still some extras. but the change really was this overall increase at each of the towns. So prior to that additional, these numbers were a little bit higher. So property valuation is the prime determinant of how much each town has to pay in terms of its share of the budget beyond subsidy. So, the next step after tonight, assuming we walk out of here, well, we'll walk out of the budget, whatever that budget may be. It has to be voted on a second time in a referendum. That referendum is Thursday, May 21st. At that referendum, you will see two ballots, one for the budget and the second for the land purchase. That will be at your town offices from 1 to 7. The budget website is available for all other details that you may want. So that's all I have.
Okay, I'm going to read each article in its entirety. At times that seems tedious, but we'll get through it. Article 1, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for regular instruction. The school board recommends $14,033,767. Is there a motion? I have a motion. Is there a second to that? And a second. Comments, questions, and discussion? Yes, ma'am.
In light of the fact that at least half of the folks in our town make less than they need to keep afloat, and that we're being crushed statewide by sharply increasing taxes and utilities, can we please see a 1% overall decrease in this article? These kinds of tax increases, even around 5% a year, are really unsustainable for folks bringing in below 100,000. These folks are not getting increases in their income per year. Thanks.
Anyone else want to comment? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion, raise your cards, please. And those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 2, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for special education. The school board recommends $10,097,520. Is there a motion? I have a motion. And a second. Comment? Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Could someone explain what you mean by increase in main care costs for services rendered at schools? I thought main care was a payer.
So when students receive out-of-district services, when they're sent to out-of-district placements, they, those schools bill main care for services, but we have a responsibility to pay a share of that. So that gets sent to us, and we have to pay our share for those services.
Okay, so it's the district share.
Yes, it's called SEED. Main care SEED is the phrase you would see. I don't know what it means and why it's named that, but that's what it's called.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 3, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for career and technical education. The school board recommends $13,328. Is there a motion? I have a motion. And I have a second. Comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 4, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for other instruction. The school board recommends $883,487. Is there a motion? Motion. And a second. Comments or questions about this one? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 5, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for students and staff support. The school board recommends $3,050,116. Is there a motion? A motion and a second. Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
As the superintendent explained in her presentation, part of this article deals with transportation costs. which also show up in other articles, and I wonder if the board has, is looking at what the impact of the increase in fuel costs that we're seeing is going to have on this budget.
Yeah, it's a huge concern. We have not typically, by this time of the year, we will have lockdown prices for next year for diesel. We have not done that. And heating oil, propane, like all those things. We've not locked down any of those prices yet because the market continues to be way too volatile. So yeah, there's a lot of concern about that.
Thank you.
Other comments? Hearing none, those in favor of Article 5? Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 6, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for system administration, the school board recommends $955,138. Is there a motion? A motion. And a second. Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 7, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for school administration. The school board recommends $2,116,701. Is there a motion? A motion and a second. Comments? Questions? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. You all be sure to tell me if I skip over it. I'm pretty sure you will. Article 8, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for transportation and buses, and the school board recommends $3,010,564. Is there a motion? A motion? A second? Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 9, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for facilities maintenance. The school board recommends $4,931,949. Is there a motion? A motion? And a second? Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion carries. Article 10, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for debt service and other commitments. The school board recommends $0. A motion? Second? Comments or questions?
Can I ask who seconded? I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
I got two.
Thank you.
I got 2 or 3 people. You pick the one you want. We got all kinds of. Is there any comments, questions, murmurs of approval, anything like that? Okay. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 11, to see what sum the district will be authorized to expend for all other expenditures, and the school board recommends $88,880. Is there a motion? A motion over here, got a second here. Comments or questions on this? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. All right, this one's going to take some reading. Article 12, to see what sum the district will appropriate for the total cost of funding public education for pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, and to see what sum the district will raise and assess as each municipality's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with Maine Revised Statute 20-A, Section 15688. And I'll read the recommended amounts, and I'm going to read the amount appropriated, and then I'll read the amount assessed by each municipality. So for the town of Green, the amount appropriated is $9,397,752.47, and the amount raised is $3,194,505.50. For the town of Leeds, the amount appropriated is $5,913,364.43, and the amount raised is $1,742,893.75. And for the town of Turner, the amount appropriated is $15,280,525.24, and the amount raised is $4,492,291, for a total appropriation of $30,591,642.14, and the total amount raised in the three towns is $9,429,690.25. There is an explanation. The district's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, is the amount of money determined by state law to be the minimum amount that the district must raise and assess in order to receive the full amount of state dollars. Is there a motion? Got a motion and a second. Comments and questions on this? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion? And those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 13, this one requires a written ballot, which I believe that you have. We'll read it first, we'll get a motion in a second, take care of any discussion, then we'll vote. To see what sum the district will raise and appropriate for additional local funds, the recommendation is $7,707,840, which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation law by the recommended amount, $7,707,840, as required by the budget, as required to fund the budget recommended by the school board. The school board recommends the $7,707,840, which exceeds the essential programs and services allocation model by $7,707,840. The school board gives the following reasons for exceeding the essential programs and services funding model. The district's costs are not fully funded in the essential program and services funding model. These items include, but are not limited to, advanced placement courses, co- and extracurricular costs, the technology coordinator, maintenance and operation costs of our own sewer plant, inadequate special education funding, including the high school cost of out-of-district placements. And I don't think we need to read that again. It's that explanation, and that's but that's not part of the vote. So, is there a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We've got a second. Comments and questions on this policy? All right, seeing no comments or questions, this requires a written ballot. You should have been given a ballot when you arrived, and it goes right over here in the ballot box. So we'll take a little break while everybody votes. Is everyone cast a vote that wanted to cast a vote? Okay, we'll count the votes.
I feel bad about it. I'm like, oh, my instincts are good.
I can understand.
That's so true. I'll get another one. Take that. Neither of us is
Just that.
Yeah, the wall.
But even still, you can't come out of it. Go get have a phone like this and we're just racing. So I was like, what's going on? I felt like it's just noted. It's noted. It's noted right here. It's noted right here. Extensive planning system to the recent appropriate time. Or never, it's just noted. It might have been for no reason. I'm like, it's I feel like this is I have to just remind myself that April vacation does not fit my head. Like
No.
it just like it's not. No, I come back with no personal. And then I'm like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, oh, right. Because it does not. I do not get myself right. No, we need to go through the budget formally, but then it's we voted on it, put together, and then have it. Right. No. Because we've had friends for days. You remember that.
The yeas were 31, the nays were 11, motion carries. Okay, I learned during that voting break that maybe my voice is not coming through clearly tonight, so let me see if I can do a little better with that. Is that better? All right, just see if I can keep that in the same place and read at the same time. Article 14 summarizes the proposed school budget. To see what sum the district will authorize the school board to expend for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2027, from the district's contribution to the total cost of funding public education for pre-kindergarten to grade 12, as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act, local funds for non-state funded school construction debt service, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statute Title 20-A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools, and the school board recommends $39,181,450. Is there a motion? I have a motion. Is there a second? And a second. Comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 15 authorizes the adult education program and the raises of local share. To see if the district will appropriate $417,193 for adult education and raise $116,237 as the local share, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program. Is there a motion? I have a motion. Got a second? Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 16 authorizes expenditures of grants and other receipts. In addition to the amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the school board be authorized to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year. For the school and other programs, provided that such grants or programs or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. The second. Comments or questions about that? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And that motion carries. Article 17 authorizes a transfer to and expenditure from the Technology Reserve Fund. Article 17, shall the school board be authorized to transfer $47,492 from available fund balances to the Technology Reserve Fund and to expend from the Technology Reserve Fund as needed in the discretion of the school board. There's a motion to approve that. There's a second. Those in favor of that motion? Those opposed? And that motion carries. Article 18 establishes the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund and authorizes a transfer to and expenditure from the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund. So, shall the school board be authorized to establish a Land Acquisition Reserve Fund for the purchase of land to be used for school purposes, to transfer up to $500,000 from available fund balances to the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund, and to expend from the Land Acquisition Reserve Fund as needed in the discretion of the school board. I have a motion, and I have a second. Comments or questions? In the back, Jeff.
Hello. I'm just kind of curious, what are the current problems with the facilities right now that you've been using?
So right now, for transportation, we have diesel tanks that are, you probably have seen them, they're at the intersection of where the library, the middle school, and Turner Elementary School. They are end of life, March of 2027. We will continue, the law allows us to continue to use the diesel tanks unless something goes wrong with them. And if we don't have a way to replace them, then we will not be able to purchase bulk diesel. So that's one issue that the board's been wrestling with a couple of years. The second is the transportation fleet is parked here at the high school with traffic issues and safety issues in terms of the volume of buses and vans that are parking here. In addition, the transportation department is in a classroom here at the high school. So the goal is to remove all of that from the high school campus. And then the third is to add 2 multi-use fields to respond to the student needs for the programs that we're running in athletics.
Thank you. Next question is, you talked about moving those diesel tanks. You plan to move them to the field, correct?
The goal is that that land would allow us to both put diesel tanks there as well as gas. We don't currently have the ability to purchase gas in bulk, so we buy it at gas stations. So we'd like to then also do that to reduce costs.
Do we know what kind of environmental impact that will have on the Scott River?
Yeah, so we had the land reviewed by an engineering firm prior to the board agreeing on an option, and we are aware that we have to go through the permitting process through the Department of Environmental Protection, but that the land was possible for us to go through that process. The board is very concerned with making sure that we're good to the Scott River in particular. The wastewater treatment plant is a huge piece of improving the health of that water, because our prior old treatment plant was discharging into the river. The current one is also discharging into the river, but with much cleaner and improved filtering in terms of the water that's going. So the board's very concerned about making sure the river is healthy.
Okay, thank you. Another question would be, you mentioned traffic problems. Do you think there could be future traffic problems on Cobb Road? Because it is a very small road with a very tight-knit community. So we're just kind of curious if that might impact the traffic around there. Because there have been a lot of accidents at that intersection right next to Jimmy's, so.
Yep. So Cobb Road already has a traffic problem. If anybody's been there during this.
My traffic problems would not.
Yeah, so what we don't have though is parking. So we are having games at the field next to Turner Primary School. And what happens is parents and teams arrive for those games at the same time that Turner Primary is dismissing. And there's no parking area for any of that. So we need to address that by adding parking down there somewhere. We also have begun to work with the town of Turner to put that intersection on the DOT's radar, because we have students, one, walking down to the field that we already have by Turner Primary, but also just going to Jimmy's if they're going between practices, getting food. I know the town of Turner is gonna be completing the sidewalk that goes like near central office, it kind of ends, and then it starts again around the corner going towards the TAA fields. I heard from them last week that their intention is to complete that sidewalk, but we need to add crosswalk and other lights to make sure that it's safe. So yeah, that already is a concern for us that we need to address.
Okay, and my final question would be, if this whole thing goes through, where did the estimated cost of these facilities and the construction and the landscaping and the paving and all that, do you have an estimate for that, or is it just kind of an open budget at the moment?
So, I mean, we all have guesses, people can make guesses, but the board has not spent any money on architecture fees because that didn't seem to be a responsible use of those funds until we knew we actually could purchase the land. So that if the land is approved to be purchased, the board has engaged with an architecture firm to work on a couple of other projects we have in the district that have nothing to do with the land. We would add this to the list for those architects to be able to give us some estimates, and then the board will have to decide once we have that, how are we gonna pay for it, how much do they wanna do, like all those decisions are gonna be need to make in the next year or two.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, another question.
How many acres is the proposed purchase?
18.8.
Yes.
And if we approve for the $500,000 to go into the land acquisition reserve fund, and then the vote is not approved at the referendum, what happens to this?
So it won't be spent, the reserve account will stay because it's designated only for land acquisition. So the option that the board has is for a year. It was signed in December. So if it doesn't get purchased, the board will have to decide what to do with the remainder of time on that option and look at next steps. But nothing happens to that amount. That money will stay there and can't be used for any other reason.
I have a question. Did you do any comparison of prices of land and see if it's a reasonable expense per acre?
Yep, so that came up at the Tri-Town Select Board meeting. We did not get an appraisal of it. Board members sort of, when we looked at 18 acres, divided it by, how much could that be an acre? I think it's about $27,000 an acre. Board members sort of just thought that seemed to be a reasonable number, also compared to lots around people's homes and what they are currently on the market for.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, one more.
We just get some additional information on what the practice fields are and why they're needed. It seems like there are a lot of practice fields in the town of Turner already. So what are the specifics? Is it going to be a track? Is it going to be a diamond? What are the fields?
Right now, so there's the TAA fields, but we don't use those or access those, right? That's for youth. Those are for youth programs that that Turner Youth Athletic runs. So these would be fields for the middle school and the high school. And right now, the intent is that they're multi-use. So any kind of field sport, field hockey, soccer, lacrosse are the three field sports that we run. And so right now, that's the goal. The goal is not, we don't think we need baseball or softball fields. We need the multi-use fields.
Are we ready to vote? Those in favor of the motion? And those opposed? The motion carries. Article 19, shall the school board be authorized to expend from the regular instruction reserve fund as needed in the discretion of the school board? So. I have a motion. I have a second. Comments or questions? Did you have a question, sir? Oh, no. All right. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 20 authorizes a transfer to and an expenditure from the capital repair reserve fund. Shall the school board be authorized to transfer up to $200,000 from the regular instruction reserve fund and up to $252,508 from the available fund balances to the capital repair reserve fund, and to expend from the capital repair reserve fund as needed in the discretion of the school board? So, I have a motion and a second. Comments Comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 21 authorizes an expenditure from the Special Education Reserve Fund. Shall the school board to expend it from the Special Education Reserve Fund as needed in the discretion of the school board? Have a motion? Second? And a second? Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? The motion carries. Article 22 authorizes an expenditure from the System Administration Reserve Fund. Shall the school board be authorized to expend from the System Administration Reserve Fund as needed in the discretion of the school board? Have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? Those in favor of the motion? And those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 23 authorizes the disposition of any additional state subsidies received. In the event the district receives more state education subsidy than the amount included in its budget, shall the school board be authorized to use all or part of the additional state subsidy to increase expenditures for school purposes in cost center categories approved by the school board, increase the allocation of finances in a reserve fund approved by the school board, and/or decrease the local cost share expectation as defined in Title 20-A, Section 15671-A1B for local property taxpayers for funding public education as approved by the school board. Have a motion and a second. Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
I understand that the state recently enacted a change in the school funding formula that is going to be phased in. Do you have any sense of how that's going to affect the district?
I do. So when the bill was first brought to the legislature, there was a model done that gave each district a sense of what the impact would be. I think it will not have any major impact on us. The model predicted that if it had taken place this year, we might lose $46,000. So not a significant change, but not an increase, and nothing like what some other districts are going to see for an improvement. So I think we'll be holding steady, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments? Ready to vote? Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. Article 24 authorizes transfers among cost centers. Shall the school board be authorized to transfer amounts exceeding 5% of the total appropriation for any cost center to another cost center or among cost centers for the 26-27 fiscal year, provided that the transfers shall not be permitted to increase the authorized total school budget? Is there a motion? There's a motion. And a second. Comments or questions? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? And the motion carries. And that being all the business that could properly come before this meeting tonight, a motion to adjourn is appropriate. Is there a second to the motion to adjourn? Those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.